make some other kids decide, hey, there's a cop here. I need to kind of, well, stay on the straight and narrow here. And then it kind of spread into the discussion, and we were just visiting a little bit, and spread into, schools, as well, maybe stopping by lunch breaks, or, we had a whole conversation on, how long ago was that, Will, a couple of years ago, resource officers.
Yeah, we've been working on it for the past couple of years.
Yeah, so this, I guess, just kind of, that's my 2 cents on it. I called Brock since he's that chair, just to kind of make him aware of it, and then you reach out.
And the line is kind of drawn, and I talked to Riley also a little bit. At what point, I guess at what point is it the school's responsibility to make sure those kids are behaving at an athletic event? And I don't know, like, if they're PBA, making out in the stands, or they're running around and they're just goofing off, because obviously because of COVID, it's a whole different ballgame, they're supposed to be, are they supposed to run them out? Did they try to say, hey, you're not coming in here anymore, and then they get aggressive and say, well, we're not leaving, you can't make us? I don't know.
Yes, they ban them from the sporting event and don't allow them on there.
Right. Yeah, and I would say that's your first line. But if they're there and they're unruly, then if they can't get them out, then it's a call, right?
You dial 911.
Is that the protocol you want them to follow?
Yes, if I could just take a couple minutes.
Absolutely.
Okay, so to kind of explain our protocols for these particular events is our guys are assigned for each time we have an event here in town. They're told that they're periodically supposed to attend that event. Again, we cannot, with the one person that we have on, we can't devote them solely to that. So we have them pop in, hang out, talk to people, then go back out and do some more patrol. And those things happen at almost every sporting event. You'll hear in the aftermath, oh, so-and-so got in a fight in the locker room, whatever. The one important thing that I can't stress enough is they need to contact us. If they have students that are absolutely out of their control, we are more than happy to come down and do our job. We actually encourage people to let us come do our job. And that's the one disconnect that we've had. And sometimes in their defense, in the heat of the moment, they're trying to handle this situation, they think they have it under control, and it spurts out on the street. So then, we don't know about it, it's spurted out in the street, which is now our problem.
Sure.
And we're getting calls from all over town. So, that's kind of our protocols. We are always open to suggestions and discussions with the school. If they're looking for a more of a specific plan, timeframes, whatever, we can try to accommodate the best we can, with our call volume around town. But, as far as the town is concerned, we have to make sure that we're trying to balance those scales, so to speak, for the entire town.
I think part of the problem was there was one of the many incidents that night. There was vaping in the student section. So it was someone knocked on, and when Mr. Conway and Mr. Allison approached him, he said, obviously they tucked it somewhere where, I don't know if they didn't know, maybe you guys have more leeway when it comes to that, and
Like a search you're talking
Yeah.
about?
Actually, we don't. They have a lot more leeway than what we do. Our hands get tied to a certain point of they're without a probable cause, we don't have the right search. We could do a pat down for weapons at best. But as far as an intrusive search, we have to have a little bit more to go off from where they can require it. Or it's as simple as, you're gone. The rest of the year, you're gone. Don't come to a sporting event. Oh, if you want to continue this attitude, you're suspended. And they have more leeway than what we actually have. So we try to work hand in hand with them and allow them to be able to utilize their leeway. And once it gets to a point where we can actually step in, that's when we let them know, hey, why don't you just let us take it from here.
And I've been to both of these. I've not seen an officer there, although the other night I think they were down at I think I saw them down at the ambulance.
And the first home game, to clarify with the superintendent, there was an officer that was down at the concession stand.
Gotcha. And I think that's where if you've got somebody that's gonna stop in there, like stop in by the concession stand bathroom student section.
Right.
If you wanna go visit with the ambulance, go ahead and go visit and come, because I think that's where the action's going to happen. And again, it doesn't have to be long. I mean, you guys know what your calls are like on a Friday night versus maybe your call volume in the middle of an afternoon, or, I don't know what it is. And just working out something that's gonna make the sense, at the end of the day, for the safety of whatever. Because I know if they've got concerns, or teachers have concerns of students that are like red flag, they're gonna know best because they're in the school every day, what they do in terms of behavior. And now, I'm sure you guys got a list too, and coming to find a way to remedy some of that.
I think one of the pieces that, is typically missing in these kinds of situations is establishing that relationship. And I think Chief and Sergeant Roman have been here long enough to have built some of those relationships. But I don't know that our new officers have. And I'd like to suggest at least an opportunity for our entire police force, the school's admin team, to get together once to visit, talk about what issues they're seeing, and what needs they may have. And then for us to also talk about the needs that what we need to see when there's issues. Here's the point at which you give us a call kind of discussion. So I think if we can at least get started on that, we can start building those relationships between those two teams and at least start the communication process forward. So.
I know something we would do when I was teaching. We basically we had a teacher meeting every week, but then we would come with a list of students that something's not right here. Or a list of behavior issues, and trust me, they start showing up. The same kids start showing up. Well, there's an issue there. More likely than not, it's a non-intact home. And trying to remedy or as opposed to just bringing the hammer on some of these kids, and I know that's the easiest thing to do, but finding a way to sit down and counsel what the heck is going on, because we all know our jail system, incarceration system is quite broken. We know it doesn't work with some things. Obviously, there are some great things with it. But trying to take these kids and finding a way to they're on that track, and finding a way to listen to what their concerns are and what's missing. And I know some of them probably won't have any of that, they just want to shut off, but to get to the deeper issue of, it's a behavior issue because they haven't gotten needs met at home. That's what it is. And they're just acting out because that's what they're angry or frustrated. Some of them are just flat out jerks, and they may have a great home life, and this is just what they do. But come to find a way to solve that problem, as a community, as opposed to, and sometimes you got to put your foot down and hammer them, but coming up with a remedy that's similar to that versus the other way.
You guys talk about mechanicals and all
As of right now, we're not back in the buildings yet.
Okay.
And just so everybody understands why we're not back in the buildings is just, I have taken the extra precaution from the other schools that have started seeing the influx of COVID, and since we're essential personnel in a smaller department, it would be a lot difficult for us to either, one, with the people we deal with, take it into those schools and give it to those kids, or two, catch it, and then now we're down 2 to 3 officers, 4-man department, so. I've kind of been reserved onto it and wanted to see what our numbers were looking like now that the school's back in session and see if we have any influx into it. I know John and I have talked about it in great detail. Once I feel comfortable that our numbers are pretty stable, I'm going to have us go in with some extra precautions. Of course, we'll be masked up, possibly gloved up, but to get us back into it. John, he does really well down in the intermediate elementary school. That's kind of his thing. Mine's more the high school because obviously I've been around those kids since elementary. He's got 2 young girls. Everybody knows him because of his kids that go there. So I mean, that helps out. The high school kids, I've known them since they were in intermediate elementary. They remember when I used to take them across that crosswalk all the time. So now I get to enjoy them as high school students. So that's kind of my thing. But yeah, as soon as we can get back in there, trust me, we miss it as much as they miss us being in there. So we hope to be back in there as soon as possible.
I think one more thing, one more point that should be made. I mean, Dr. Conway mentioned that night, and he was quite frazzled, but he said, I would pay to have police presence I mean, how would that look, how that, I don't know if you wanna speak to that, or?
Nate, you could probably best speak to
Yeah,
it better than I could.
we would more than likely base that off of what's being done at, private events for security coverage, for example. Our only local experience with that would be Fourth of July. So, we would probably base our rates on that.
Yeah.
Something that would cover our costs. I don't think there'd be any reason to go higher.
Do you,
Have we approached them about maybe bringing on a full-time SRO?
Everybody's struggling to fill
We
part-time
do.
positions, so we're down to one part-timer,
oh, you are, okay.
so.
You know, because here's an issue that I see, I mean, nationwide, and I'm old enough to know that when I was at a high school football game, because I don't play because I was small. In order to get a bunch, in order to get like right now, you can use social media and you got a group of, and that's tough. Like you see it in every city, like you can have a mob, and I'm not saying it's this situation, but you can have a mob in downtown place in 25 minutes because you can, on your phone, right? And now is a similar situation where, it's not like you call them and talk to your friends at 6:30, say, well, we're gonna be down at the game, and so-and-so's not there, and they may be rousing in trouble, and now somebody got 7, 8. Now it's just we're on the phone and boom, all of a sudden there's 12, 15, and that just stuff, it just seems easier to cause trouble
Yes.
faster. And you guys know this more than, but, so we just have to be aware of that. Right?
Spin it that big dial.
That makes sense to you at some point.
I get it.
I know it's a complicated,
Yeah, I think it's another discussion.
If I could have
yeah,
John
it doesn't
come
have
up
to
there
be tonight, but
and speak on behalf of what, he's more in touch with the Sioux Falls PD and some of the things that we've been hearing as far as rumors from the SRO programs up there.
Like Minnehaha County, they all contract with the schools, it's a contracted amount. Same with Sioux Falls, they have their officers in there. With everything that's going on in the world right now, it may be a thing of the past. So it's gonna kind of play out how that's going. A lot of those school resource officers are being funded, they're going away from the program. And a lot of that is because we haven't had the major violence in schools as well. Whether right or wrong, who knows? We luck out where we do have a PD in town, we're there rather quickly. I know there's incidents last year where we're there fast. And we will do everything we can to make sure we're in those schools. The COVID stuff threw us off, it really did. Is it possible to look into? Yeah. Definitely. The question is, how much or what? And to look at an SRO on top of it, it's a special certified officer that's in that school, so not only would we have to hire somebody, we have to send them to that training. So if it was something that would go forward now, you're looking into the fall of next year for us to get up and going. Plus policy, procedure, what vehicles, equipment.
Because they would, in essence, they would have to have their own squad car to be able to address all of our schools. And potentially, I don't know how far that they would want to stretch their SRO off of being that Worthing is part of their school district. Worthing would possibly be in their sector.
Green truck.
I really agree with that. You put a light bar on the top,
I think there is.
wrong color.
You change bulbs.
Spray paint will fix it.
thanks, yeah.
Yeah. Something with that SRO too is they're under a different restriction and codified laws and everything too, so they would have more authority in those schools. Right now, it's up to the school to invite us in. If at any point say, no, we don't want you, then we're out.
Gotcha.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to move into exec?
After a short recess.
So was there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
I don't know. It was the same, yeah. I was really nervous that
Thank
night.
you.
So you got to see.
Yeah, so I was watching them.
Yeah.
They don't go into the bathroom and they
No, I'd
were
love to do
just,
the SRO program, but
the little
Well, you know more than I do. I was after 9/11, I covered Christian.
Presbyterian church last summer.
And after 9/11,